Hello everybody. I welcome you on this talk. Hope you ate well now. I really appreciate you coming here. Yesterday I was sitting in this room and I was listening to all the amazing speakers like Phil, like Steve Kaufman, Benny Lewis, and I was like, OMG, what I'm doing here? Like they are so experienced and such a personalities, and I was a little bit nervous, which I'm now because it's my first speech in English, my public speech. So I really appreciate you coming here, and we will speak about Norwegian. It's called a comprehensive guide on how to learn the language in 5 months. I put it here. So let me first introduce a little bit myself. My name is Kamil Klemsa. And I come from the Czech Republic. It's the neighbor country of Slovakia. We are considered to be like a older brother. Are there any Slovaks here? Okay, no, that's good. Let me tell you shortly about something about myself and how I got into learning languages. When I finished my studies, I started to work in a finance department of a big industrial corporation. First it was nice, I learned a lot, but after some time I realized it's nothing I would like to do for the rest of my life. So I left the company and went to Australia. It was always my dream to go to Australia. So this is Ayers Rock Uluru in the middle of Australia. I'm there with some Aboriginal people. And I studied in Australia at a college. And I worked there also as a green cabs driver, rider. I'm a cyclist, so it was really nice. I studied languages and I lived in an Australian family. I traveled a lot and it was a really beautiful time. But then I came back to the Czech Republic, and this time I didn't do the same mistake. I didn't start to work in a big corporation, but rather I started to work for a small company, small investment company. And at the beginning it was nice, but after some time, again, when I was working 10 hours a day at office, I realized that it's nothing I would like to do for the rest of my life. So I took the whole of my holiday and went to Bali for 30 days. I fell in love with Indonesia and the local people. Always when I go to Indonesia, I start to live because it's so spontaneous there. So I did some crazy things, like started to surf and met a lot of interesting people. And after 30 days, I came back to work again, and something changed. I started to eat more bananas, and what happened is that somehow my immunity system kind of broke up, and I had to remove both of my neck tonsils, and I got into hospital for a couple of weeks, and I met there very interesting people. Like I didn't know that you can meet such nice people at hospital. You have a lot of time there. You're waiting for the surgery, so you speak with them, and almost all of them we're working in a stress conditions, you know, and so somehow we had the same problem. And they were telling some of them were like, they had cancer, and they told me, well, just do what you love, because you never know what happens next day. So yeah, I left again, and this time I became a freelancer. I started to work for a Czech company remotely, and also I started to work in Norway, and I have time to do volunteering in Indonesia. So first country I chose was Norway, because my very good friend has been living there. And so I decided to go to Norway for some time, and that's why I decided to start Norwegian. And so I was searching all the materials, how to learn the language quickly, and there are some pictures from Norway. I were there with my friends. We traveled for 3 weeks. And there is beautiful nature for sure. It's amazing there. You have a lot of time to think about things. And this is like first sign that I would be working as a bartender in the Norway. So later I worked as a bartender for 3 months. And this is Mushen. It's a town about 100 kilometers from the polar cycle, where I stayed for 3 months almost. And when I came back, I went to Indonesia again to do some volunteering job. I was teaching English at local schools on Lombok. It was amazing, but let's go back to Norway. Yeah, I decided what was my motivation to learn Norwegian. I think when we learn languages, it's important to know what our motivations are, because it shapes our learning process. So my motivation was to try to learn the language as quickly as possible. I didn't know anything about Norwegian, so I searched some information. As for me, it was also like they were traveling and working purposes, because I was about to work there. I wanted to become better at learning languages, and I was eager to try out some alternative methods of learning languages. So I searched a lot of information. I think most of you know those guys. Benny was here yesterday. By the way, Benny inspired me yesterday, because I was like, oh my God, I can't do this talk. And later in the evening, I was like, I remembered Benny, who was speaking here about that we are here to share our knowledge, share our passion, share our experience, and I was like, yes, I want to share it with you. So, and one article which I liked most was How to Learn Any Language in Record Time and Never Forget It, written by Tim Ferriss. So pretty much my plan was made out of this article. And can I ask you, is there anyone who speaks Norwegian? Nice. And is someone like learning Norwegian? Or okay, and who wants to learn Norwegian? Oh, many of you. That's nice. So yeah, you may be thinking if you might learn Norwegian, and there are some reasons why should you learn Norwegian. I didn't know it, but it's really a simple language for like native English or German speakers. The grammar is much easier, and there are many cognates from those languages, like from German and English. What is nice that once you learn Norwegian, you can understand also Swedish and Danish. Those languages are mutually intelligible. Are there any Swedish or Danish here? Okay. So another great thing is that once you learn Norwegian, you get an access to work in a beautiful country with the highest salaries in the world. Actually, I worked there like 3 months as a bartender, and what I earned there in 3 months, I could spend 10 months in Indonesia doing volunteering job, because the cost of living in Indonesia is really low. and you have access to nice beaches, and yeah, why not to try this? Yeah, and why not to try something exotic? I think those are good reasons to start Norwegian. And so let me a little bit introduce Norwegian language. It's a North Germanic language, and it belongs to a broader group of Indo-European languages, together with German and English. It's a Scandinavian language, so the languages Danish and Swedish and Norwegian are mutually intelligible. And what is important is that there are two written standards, Bokmål and Nynorsk. We will speak about this later. 80% of Norwegian uses Bokmål. What is interesting that there is no spoken standard of Norwegian. I don't know how is it with your native languages, but for example with Czech, with my native language, we have like a special office who controls the right, which words are good, which not, and they approve those words or not. So this doesn't work in Norway. They don't have one language, spoken language, which is like official, and that's why there are a lot of dialects of Bokmål. More than 20 dialects, and the most widespread dialect is Central Eastern dialect, which is spoken in Oslo, around Oslo, in media, in TV, radio, everywhere. We'll speak about this later. So yeah, this is Bokmål and Nynorsk. Some differences. Bokmål is a variety of Danish because Norway was under the influence of Denmark for many centuries. Is used by 86% of the population, and is used mostly in the eastern part and the northern parts of Norway. Whereas Nynorsk evolved from Norwegian dialects, the population somehow resisted to or were in opposition due to Denmark, because they had big influence there. So the Nynorsk like evolved from the Norwegian dialect, and it's used by 7.5% of the population, and is used mostly in the western parts of Norway, around the parts around fjords. So here are some like basic differences, like for example, I, you say in Bokmål I, and in Nynorsk is and so it was like a little bit tricky when I came to Mushen, and I started to hear like, instead of jeg heter Kamil, like those are like totally different words. And so for example, not is ikke in Bokmål, and in Nynorsk is ikse. Maybe you would like to know which language to start, if Norwegian, Swedish or Danish, which is better to start with, because they are mutually intelligible. There are small differences for sure, and there is one metaphor which is being used. It's metaphor of treating them as like three sisters. Like Danish is the youngest sister, drinks and like smokes a lot, and is the least understood by other sisters. Whereas Norwegian is like a middle sister. It's a mediator between those two, between Danish and Swedish, and Norwegian and Danish have almost the same words, so there is the same spelling, but the pronunciation differs. And Norwegian and Swedish, the pronunciation is more close, but the spelling differs. So I think the best language to start from these three is really Norwegian. There are some differences. For example, hvor er du fra? Where are you from? In Norwegian, you see that in Danish there is the same spelling but the pronunciation differs a little bit. I don't know if we can... no, it doesn't work now. But Swedish, there is a little bit different. The words are different, but the pronunciation is more close. And yeah, so let's go. I made a plan, like, because it was 2 months before I left to Norway, and I was supposed to stay there about 3 months. Then I planned to go to Indonesia, so I had 5 months, and this time I tried to make my plan based on the article from Tim Ferriss, and it made a sense for me, because it started with pronunciation practice. You who study or speak Norwegian know that there are many different sounds in Norwegian. So at the beginning, I just spent 2 weeks by practicing pronunciation, and it helped me a lot. Then I started to learn vocabulary, only the basic 600 vocabulary. I just spent 4 weeks with this, and then I started to make some listening exercises and only basic grammar, just tenses, you know, how to form the tense, so that I can speak at the beginning. And then I moved to Norway, so I spent there three months. There are really good online courses of Norwegian which are for free on internet. Those are Norwegian on the web, provided by University in Trondheim. It's 10-lesson interactive course, and Introduction to Norwegian, which is provided by Oslo University. It's a 4-week interactive course, and there are a lot of great things. So you can start with those courses, and there is a lot of information. So this is how NTNE online course looks like, and what is good, there is 40 listening exercises with transcripts which are downloadable. There is comprehensive grammar, and there are 2 pronunciation lessons. So if you want to start with pronunciation, you can use those lessons, and it will help you. Oslo University, I found out this course later, but it's also very nice. It's on FutureLearn platform, where you can study more languages. Free online subscription. There are a lot of videos with listening exercises which are downloadable, and you have subtitles, English subtitles, Norwegian subtitles. There is Chatbot. It's a robot for practicing writing and speaking. You can also use. So the pronunciation practice. I think learning the right pronunciation at the beginning is very helpful, because if you don't learn the pronunciation at the beginning, if you hear the language, you don't know what the words are and everything. So when you learn the differences between what you have learned so far or with your native language, it will really help you. So there are a lot of specifics in the Norwegian pronunciation. We will have a look only at some of them. So there are some specific letters of the alphabet, like A, Ö, A, O. So to be is å være, to run or løpe, both både. There are also some differences with some normal letters, like English O is pronounced as U, and English U is pronounced as U. So to remember is å huske. There are a lot of differences in pronunciation, like you have long and short vowels. For example, if you have vowel and consonant at the end, so it's pronounced like a long vowel. So roof is tak, whereas thing is tak. Doctor, lege. To lay is lege. You have a lot of silent consonants, like cold, you say cow, higely, without G. There are a lot of those specifics. So to learn these specifics at the beginning, I think it's really important. Well, then vocabulary learning. I didn't know before that learning, I think you know it because you are all very experienced here. I was surprised how many languages do you speak, everybody here. And so maybe you know this, but I didn't know it before. Like 100 of words, the basic words, makes almost 70% of the spoken language. So for sure you can download the list with those words and prepare your personalized flashcards in Ankidroid app. I don't know, can I ask you who uses Ankidroid here? So yeah, some people use it. For me, it's really nice. I personalize those cards. I upload there the pronunciation, my personalized picture. I put there some sentence in context, and the thing that it's like based on spaced repetition system. When you manage the time when you want to repeat it again, it was like it's easy learning for me, so I like it. And yeah, it's about Ankidroid app. Many of you use it, so I can highly recommend it. There are some people who don't use it, but so this is what it looks like. This is suit in English, and in Norwegian it's undress. So then, based on how comfortable are you with the word, you decide when you want to repeat it again. And the periods are getting more extended later. So when you start to learn Norwegian, it's nice to learn at the beginning the cognates, because there are a lot of cognates with German and English. Here are some of them. So you see that there are a lot of them. These are only examples. Pronunciation sometimes differs a little bit. Like a person in Norwegian is person. But it's helpful to learn these cognates at the beginning. Then it's easier to start speaking from the scratch. These are cognates with German language. Also, to start to learn some of conversational connectors, it's also useful because at the beginning you want to think about what you're gonna say, and so these conversational connectors are really helpful. Like in my opinion, a term in meaning. That's a good question. They are good spørsmål. So some of them at the beginning, it's really useful. So it took me 1 month, the pronunciation and to learn the words, the basic words. And then I continued with listening practices. I just used the exercises from the online courses. And I learned only the basic grammar. So it took me another month. So listening practice, what I liked and what I recommend to you is that I listened the recordings 2 times without the transcript, and I tried to catch everything there, and then I listened it to again with the transcript. And then if I didn't catch some words or was not comfortable with them, I searched what do they mean, and wrote them in Ankidroid or vocabulary list, put them in context. And then I was listening to the text, to the recording again with the transcript, and I was reading with the recordings. And so I did it also next days until I could hear everything from the recording. As for grammar practice, I think it's important only to know the basic grammar, like how to form the tenses, which in Norwegian is quite easy. So basic tenses, how to make negations, questions, imperative form, something about nouns, so that we can start to speak just quickly. And so basic tenses like present tense, I go home, jeg går hjem. So å gå is the verb in infinitive, so you add R behind the word. Past, there are 4 ways how to create the word in past. There are some rules. Go is like how is it called? Irregular word. So jeg gikk hjem. Future, if you make future time, you add only skal in front of go. So jeg skal gå hjem, I will go home. In present perfect, you have like verb have, har, and add the participle, thank you. Yeah, so it's quite easy. Questions, it's a really good way to start is to learn all the question words so that we are able to ask questions like what is your name, hva heter du, who is it, hvem er dette, where are you from, hvor kommer du fra, how are you, hvordan går det, which table did you choose, welket bord valgte du. So at the beginning it's really good to start with those question words. Well, negation, you only add, you have reisen, like å reise is the word in infinitive, to travel. Jeg reiser ikke til Norge, I don't travel to Norway, so you only add ikke behind the verb in the present time, very easy. Imperative, for example, you have verb to wait, which is å vente, so you only drop e, went på meg, wait for me. And as for nouns, there are 3 genders in Norwegian: masculine, feminine, and neuter. So, for example, en bil is a car, and if we have the car, so we only add transfer n to the end of the word, so bilen, the car. As for neuter, et bord is a table and budet is the table. And feminine, ayente, you change, the girl is yenta. So this time you don't add a behind the word, but add a. Yeah, so this basic grammar is sufficient at the beginning, I think. And what follows is speaking practice. It's the most funniest part, and for sure the best way is go to Norway, which is a really beautiful country, and speak there in everyday situations, travel, work, whatever. But for sure nowadays we have many things what we can do. Like we can find partners on iTalki, Skype, or HelloLingo and practice speaking with them, or finding your speaking partner in your city where you live. And what follows is we must keep and improve the language. So yeah, just we should do what we love in that language. I think it's the best way how to keep the language. And so, yeah, the bottom line from the speech is that I think it's important to think about our motivations to learn the language when we start, because it shapes our learning process. Then to make some plan, it always go quicker when we have some plan, but on the other hand, the reason why I go to Indonesia is because they don't plan, they live spontaneously, and then like it there. So, but as for languages, I think it's good to have a plan, but yeah. And so then to start with pronunciation and to learn the basic vocabulary, and then learn basic grammar, and do a lot of listening exercises to hear the language. Well, and then go to Norway and speak and enjoy the language and do what you love. Here is like, I think it's invitation for another course I had in Prague about Norway. I don't know if, let's try if it's working. I did some invitation.
Hej alle sammen. Tusen takk for å komme på kurset min, og velkommen her. Navnet av kurset er Norge, reise og arbeide i landet av fjorden. Nå er jeg hjemme i Olomouc. Jeg håper at dere får all informasjon for å reise og arbeide i hyggelige land Norge. Så, lykke til. Ha et god opphold i Norge, og vi ses senere. Ha det.
So it's like my invitation for another course. And sorry. Yeah, it's okay, Phil, thank you. Yeah, so yeah, and that's it. So thank you for your attention. I believe that you learned something from this. It would be nice to stay in contact, and there is some space for your answer or your questions if you have some questions. So thank you. I really appreciate. Thank you. Yeah.
You said that you made a plan, and have you followed your plan, and did it work?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, I think it pretty much. I followed the plan, and it pretty much worked. I had a lot of time the 2 months before I left to Norway. So I personalized all the cars and had a lot of time to do all the listening exercises. So I spent like 3 or 4 hours a day with this. So yeah, I think I hope it worked. So I think because Norwegian is quite easy language. I didn't know it before. Like. I don't know, maybe it's because I compared with Czech, because Czech language is quite difficult, but it's really easier than English or German. So yeah, I followed. Yeah.
Thanks for the talk. You talked about those 3 Nordic languages, it's Norwegian, Swedish, and Danish, as 3 sisters, and you were also referring to their age. Does the oldest sister means that it was codified the first, or is just a metaphor to talk about their her as a personality? Or
thank you for this question. The Swedish is taken as the oldest sister. It's because the most there are 10 million people in Sweden who speak Swedish. Norwegian only 5 million, and Danish is also something around 5 million. But so it's always like Sweden is taken like the most powerful, and the Norwegians and Danish, they don't say it, they don't agree with this. And there is biggest difference between Swedish and Danish. There is they don't understand much. They understand, but there is a biggest difference. So that's why it's on the opposite side, like Denmark. Yeah.
Hello. To answer your question, Danish was codified earliest, and the normalization of Swedish was a reaction to Danish influence. And Norwegian they used Danish in Norway, so written Norwegian is also based on Danish, so the oldest one would be Danish, to answer that question.
Maybe if I might have a follow-up question, how about Norwegian speakers and the Icelandic? Like, do Norwegians understand Icelandic, or?
It's they can, but it's quite different. So I'm not much sure if someone have experience, but there is big difference between Icelandic. So they cannot much. Yeah. Are there more questions? Yeah.
I was just, how would you say what's your level now? So would you say it's B2 or?
I'm not sure. I think it's something between B1, B2, something like that. Yeah. Yeah. I was like working as a bartender, so I learned a lot of as in this job, but yeah. Thank you for this question. Because in Norway, everybody speaks English, even small children or old people, everybody. So at the beginning, it's not easy, because when they get to know that you are just a beginner, so they want to speak with you in Norwegian, in English. Sorry. So it was a little bit tricky at the beginning, but I tried to be like. I tried always to tell them that I want to speak Norwegian, and then I spoke Norwegian with them. But they usually switch to English quite quickly. Thank you. And yeah.
I wondered if you could say a bit more about how you found the job, and at one stage you mentioned that you were freelancing. So these are things which you said almost in a throwaway, quite a casual way, but for some people they might be quite a hindrance to just going off somewhere to learn a language. So you obviously managed. Have you any advice to anybody who might be thinking of doing something similar, leaving a job that they don't want to do anymore and just jumping out?
Sorry, what was the question?
It's about how you financed, how you found work, you freelanced, you worked as a barman.
Thank you for this question. As I told you, I have a part-time contract with a Czech company for who I work. Norway is a good country because you can earn a lot of money there. So I just have some income from freelancer work, like just a kind of basic income, and then I basically can do whatever I want. So I went to Norway, and if you earn money in Norway, then as I told you, you can spend 10 months in Indonesia, do the volunteering job there, learn Indonesian, serve there, and so it's like a combination of freelancer work, working in a highly income country, and spending in the low income country. Thank you for this question. Yeah. Do we have more questions? We have 5 minutes.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if you had some gap between what you had when you had just trained and what happened when you arrived. If there is something you could tell us about that.
Okay, thank you. So the question was if there was some gap between what I learned and then when I came to Norway. So there was gap, mostly in the pronunciation, because there are a lot of dialects and they speak quite quickly and just link some words together. So I just, at the beginning I had a problem with listening, but then if you go to the specific part of Norway and you hear it for some time, so then you know what the words are, and but the biggest gap was still with the pronunciation, which is a little bit specific in Norwegian.
Carry on with this matter. I heard that there are even some beginners lessons for people going to West Coast in order to avoid them learning Norwegian from Oslo. That would be not efficient because they have to relearn again the West Coast accent, the words and the prosody. They want to be spending time for nothing because they're not going to be understood with the Oslo accent in, I don't know, Stavanger, for instance. What do you think about that? And kind of the same question, can you cope with Nynorsk?
Yeah. So, well, it's always, thank you for this question, it's always like, as for the dialects, when I came to Norway, I just traveled with my friends, and I was at the beginning stage. So I was just hearing the language. But if you go to the western part of Norway, they speak mostly Nynorsk, which is the other, or they use Nynorsk. So you have some differences, as I showed you, but I think generally people understand the Oslo, the east, central eastern dialect of Norwegian, which is like Bokmål, and they understand it everywhere. So most of them, yes, but but not all of them. Okay, do we have some more questions?
Yeah, maybe I can add one other resource. It's certainly not free and not so cost effective, but there is a summer university in Oslo each summer, which is quite fun, I would say. So it's too late for this year, but maybe next year if someone is going to learn Norwegian next year.
For sure. Yeah, thank you. There are a lot of sources. I think these two that I chose, they are 100% free. So and there is everything. But yeah, thank you for this. And yeah, if you have more questions about Norway, Norwegian, about anything, just we can speak here these 2 days or so. Yeah, so thank you very much for being here. Thank you, really appreciate. Thanks. And enjoy the rest of this great gathering. Thank you.